Very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes.
Okay, this is crazy. Lexie Hull just dropped a bomb that has Fever fans absolutely losing their minds. She's leaving Indiana. Yeah, that Lexie Hull. The one who's been right beside Caitlin Clark through every high, every rough night, every headline. The same teammate who fought through all the noise, the criticism, the growing pains of this young Fever squad. And now? She's out. Gone. Just like that. Fans are stunned, timelines flooded, comments going off, because this isn't just another roster move. This one hurts. It hits deep. Because if you've been watching all season, you know Lexie wasn't just another player. She was one of the few constants for Caitlin Clark. Always defending, always hustling, always backing her up when things got messy. Oh, when someone that loyal suddenly walks away, you have to ask, what went wrong? Was it the front office? Was it minutes? Was it frustration? Or is something bigger going on behind the scenes in Indiana? Either way, this decision changes everything. Not just for Lexie, but for Caitlin and the entire Fever squad. Oh, before we break it all down, here's the real question. Did Lexie make the right move? Because no matter how you spin it, this one stings.
It's uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes. Elliot?
See, Lexie Hull wasn't just another name sitting on the Fever's bench. She was one of the few players who actually brought fire when everything around the team started falling apart. Every game, she was on the floor hustling for loose balls, diving for rebounds, doing all the little things that never make it into the highlight reels, but that win you games. And that's what makes this sting even more. Her contract situation was already complicated. She hit restricted free agency, which meant the Fever had the option to keep her if they wanted, just by matching any other offer. But judging by how Lexie's been talking lately, it doesn't sound like someone planning to stay. When a player starts using phrases like, "I'm just seeing what the future holds," or, "there's a lot of uncertainty right now," that's basically code for, "I'm moving on." You don't need an agent or a translator to understand what that really means. She's gone.
It's better. I'm excited to sit down and not do anything for a little bit. Yeah.
For you, what was this season like in terms of the different iterations and the different versions of yourself that you had to play, different roles, shooting, defense, diving, all those different things?
Yeah, I mean, the year, I feel like my role changed throughout the course of the year. I think continuing to just show up as my best self, regardless of starting or not, or playing more on the ball defensively or off, whatever the night looked like, I feel like my ability to adapt grew throughout the year. And that's something that I think I can continue to work on my game, is being flexible and being able to really just do whatever the team needs. And this year, I think everyone on our team was challenged in a way.
Now, let's rewind for a second, because Lexie's exit didn't just come out of nowhere. This was building for months. The Fever season, to put it gently, was chaos. Between injuries piling up, rotations that made zero sense, and the never-ending noise surrounding Caitlin Clark, it's honestly a miracle the team didn't completely unravel by mid-June. Through all that, Lexie was one of the very few steady forces. Whether she was starting, coming off the bench, or filling in wherever the team needed her, she always brought consistency and effort. But then came that interview, the one where you could practically hear it in her voice. Exhaustion, frustration, and that quiet tone of someone who's already emotionally checked out. She said all the right things, that she loved Indiana, loved the fans, loved the people, but notice what she didn't say. She never once said she loved what was happening inside the franchise. That silence. It spoke louder than any quote could. And when she said, "I've built a life here," that wasn't a commitment. That was a farewell, carefully wrapped in polite words. Lexie's smart. She knows how to leave gracefully, without setting anything on fire on her way out. And her timing says everything. The Fever are heading into one of their most uncertain off-seasons ever. Caitlin Clark's recovering from injury, The CBA talks are getting shaky, there's even chatter about a possible 2026 lockout, and now, one of Clark's closest allies on the roster is gone. That's not a giant red flag for what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what is.
Just every single thing we faced, I think, is something that we won't forget. Like the injuries, the playing through people that playing with groups that we are just haven't even practiced with for the first time in games. Like we were faced with so much uncertainty. So I think there isn't like one pinpoint game where I'm like.
Lexie's interview also hinted at something much deeper. She's tired. Not just physically, but mentally worn down by all the chaos surrounding this team. She talked about having to constantly adjust to new roles, how the lineup changed almost every game, and how players were expected to just show up and perform no matter what the situation looked like that night. In plain English, there was zero consistency. She never really knew which version of the Fever she was stepping into each game, and honestly, that tracks. Coach Stephanie White spent most of the season shuffling lineups like she was searching for a magic formula. One night, Lexie's guarding wings. The next, she's asked to spot up as a shooter. Then suddenly, she's expected to hold down the defense on switches. That's an exhausting amount of pressure to dump on one player, especially when you're not getting a steady role or rhythm to build confidence. And after months of that, it's no surprise she finally said, enough.
Uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so we'll see what comes. Elliot?
Even with everything going on, Lexie managed to handle things better than most players would. When she talked about adapting and staying flexible, it wasn't just a cliché response. It was her professional way of saying, I kept quiet and did what was expected of me. And then came the part where she mentioned how excited she was about Unrivaled. Yeah, she's not going home to take a break. She's jumping right into the new Unrivaled League, the off-season venture led by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. That alone says a lot about where players' minds are these days. Many don't fully trust the WNBA system anymore. They're craving more independence, exposure, and, let's be honest, better pay. For Lexie, this move isn't just about basketball, it's about stability. She's aware that the WNBA could be heading toward major uncertainty next season, possibly even a lockout. So it makes perfect sense to put her time into something more secure and promising. T also reveals something about where her true loyalty lies. She never said a bad word about Caitlin Clark. In fact, when she was asked about her, she got emotional, saying it was painful to watch Caitlin deal with injuries and not be able to compete. You could feel the genuine respect. But notice what she didn't say. She didn't say she was staying to help Caitlin recover. Instead, she said she was proud of how she showed up this season. That's a kind, classy way of closing a chapter. And that's where things start to get really interesting. Because if Lexie Hull, one of the most positive, team-focused players out there, is deciding to leave, that's a serious signal that morale inside the locker room might be collapsing. Lexie has always described her biggest strengths as competitiveness and the will to win. So her departure isn't about fear, it's about exhaustion. She's tired. Tired of the uncertainty, tired of the instability, and maybe tired of being on a team where one player gets all the spotlight while everyone else fades into the background. And let's be real, that's not Caitlin's fault. It's just how the media works. When Caitlin sneezes, it's a headline. When Lexie dives across the floor for a loose ball for the 10th time, nobody notices. After a while, that wears you down. Eventually, you start thinking, maybe I should go somewhere I'm actually valued. As soon as the news dropped, social media went wild. Some fans were heartbroken, others brushed it off, saying, it's just business. But deep down, everyone knew who this really affects, Caitlin Clark. Her inner circle in Indiana was already small. Lexie wasn't just a teammate, she was one of her closest friends. They practiced together, shared interviews, and were often the only two smiling through the team's toughest nights. Now, Caitlin heads into next season with even fewer people she can truly rely on in that locker room. And the timing couldn't be more symbolic, right in the middle of tense CBA negotiations. Lexie even mentioned how uncertain the off-season feels for everyone across the league. That wasn't a throwaway comment, it was her acknowledging that players everywhere are uneasy about what comes next, from pay structure to leadership. Oh, while some fans are surprised, Lexie probably saw this coming months ago. She's been watching the same turbulence as everyone else. And as a restricted free agent, she likely made up her mind long before the season ended. If things didn't change dramatically, she was out. Lexie made it clear, if things didn't improve significantly, she was ready to move on. She also mentioned wanting to grow her offensive game, which is a big deal. One of the biggest knocks against her in Indiana was her lack of consistency on that end. Defensively, she was rock solid, no question, but her shooting rhythm and shot selection were up and down. And honestly, that probably wasn't even her fault. It's hard to build rhythm when your role changes every other week. By heading to unrivaled, she's stepping into a setup that gives her more touches, more freedom, and a faster pace, a perfect match for how she likes to play. And really, good for her. It's empowering to see a player take her future into her own hands instead of waiting around for a front office that seems unsure of what direction it even wants to go. Oh, what does this mean for the Indiana Fever? Well, they just lost one of their most valuable glue players. You can replace scorers, there's always another shooter somewhere, but players who defend, hustle, bring non-stop energy, and never complain? Those are rare. Sure, Caitlin Clark remains the face of the franchise, but now she's surrounded by more question marks than ever. Who's going to guard the perimeter with the same intensity as Lexie? Who's going to be that calm, steady force when the team starts to fall apart mid-game? Because, let's be real, that happened more than once last season. And before anyone says, don't worry, they'll just draft someone, let's remember something important. You can't draft chemistry. You can't instantly create trust. Right now, this Fever team feels less like a rebuilding project and more like a revolving door. The irony is almost painful. Lexie said she was proud of how the team kept fighting for the players who couldn't be out there, and that hits especially hard when you realize Caitlin missed a big chunk of time with her injuries. One of the players who fought for her the hardest won't even be around next year. That's poetic, but not in a good way. For a brief moment, it felt like Indiana had a real foundation. Caitlin, Lexie, Boston, and a few others forming something solid to build on. Now, that foundation's starting to crack before it even had a chance to grow. If management doesn't step in quickly, this could easily turn into a one-player show, and that's never good for a franchise trying to rebuild credibility. Oh, here's the truth. Lexie Hull leaving isn't just another roster move. It's a loud warning sign that things behind the scenes might be falling apart. And that brings us to the big question everyone's quietly wondering. What happens to Caitlin Clark now? Because let's be real, this isn't just another teammate leaving. For Caitlin, it's a real emotional hit. Lexie was one of the few players who truly understood her, someone who didn't turn everything into a competition or fight for the spotlight. Losing Lexie means losing the one person who balanced out the team's energy. You could tell from the way they interacted that their chemistry wasn't about flashy highlights or viral moments. It was that quiet, steady connection that keeps a team together when everything else starts to fall apart. When everything around the Fever seemed to crumble, Lexie was the calm in the storm. Whenever Caitlin got double-teamed, Lexie was the one cutting to the basket, giving her a quick option. After tough losses, when the cameras swarmed Caitlin, Lexie was right there beside her. No words, just quiet support. That kind of connection doesn't show up in the box score, but it's the heartbeat of a team. Now, that heartbeat is gone. And Caitlin's heading into her second professional season, the one where everyone expects her to be everything at once. The leader, the scorer, the defender, the media face, the calm under pressure. That's an unreal amount of responsibility for anyone, let alone a 23-year-old whose closest ally just walked out the door. But here's the flip side. This might be the moment that truly defines Caitlin Clark. Last season, she was the spark that reignited interest in the WNBA. This season, she's being asked to be the anchor. No more leaning on veterans to smooth things over. No more sidekick to share the emotional load. It's on her now, completely. And maybe that's exactly what she needs. Caitlin's always played with a fierce, fiery edge, sometimes too much for those around her, but that same intensity is what makes her special. With Lexie gone, there's no one to absorb the pressure for her. She either steps fully into the leader role, or she crumbles under it. What's even more interesting is how Lexie's exit might shake up the rest of the roster. Players talk, and when someone as loyal and hard-working as Lexie Hull decides she's had enough, that sends a loud message. It tells everyone that no one is immune from frustration. That could motivate the team to step up, or it could split them further apart. Either way, Caitlin will be at the center of it. She'll need to lead differently, with more communication, more trust, and less of that, I'll do it all myself mindset. Because the truth is, she can't carry the entire franchise on her own anymore. Indiana's management is already under scrutiny, and the last thing they need is another season of viral clips showing Caitlyn arguing with refs while the team gets blown out. And let's not kid ourselves, the fan takes are coming. The moment Lexie signs elsewhere, social media will light up with opinions like, "See? No one wants to play with Caitlyn Clark." You can already picture the tweets. But this is where Caitlyn's real growth will show, not in how she responds online, but in how she leads on the court. Without Lexie, there's no safety net. She'll have to rebuild from scratch, earn new trust, mentor younger players, and prove that she's more than a headline or ratings magnet. If she can do that, she'll cement herself as the leader the Fever desperately need. But if Indiana's front office doesn't surround her with real help, consistent shooters, strong defenders, players who can take some of the pressure off, next season could turn messy fast. Because no franchise can survive on one superstar alone while letting the glue pieces quietly walk away. Oh yeah, Lexie Hull leaving hurts. It hurts Caitlyn, the fans, and the Fever's entire culture. But maybe, just maybe, this is the moment that forces Caitlyn Clark to finally evolve into the leader everyone's been waiting to see. What do you think? Will Lexie's exit be the spark that turns Caitlyn into a true leader, or is it the first domino in a much bigger problem for Indiana? Let's talk in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because trust me, the Fever drama is just getting started. Fire.